Hey guys, welcome in. James Phillips here. It's the next edition of the Coach Moore Show. Coach Moore, another big win on Friday night, another shutout win. We got to talk about 3 shutouts in a row, right?
Sure. Yeah, it was a big win. Kids played hard. I thought we played a lot better than corner. I thought we came out with a better intensity. We came out with more attention to detail. I thought practice was a great indicator of how the game would go. I thought we had a good week of practice, a physical week of practice. A very busy week, obviously, last week with all the things that were going on. But on top of all the homecoming stuff, we also had a Monday night JV game at Hueytown that was a huge game, but it was also on the road, so that just added, we get home to after 9, as you well know. I mean,
Right.
it was a lot last week, but I was really, really pleased with the mentality, again, and the mindset of going into that game.
Well, and on top of that, last week, you even have a death in the family, which adds to that. But what can you say about our community and how they rallied around you guys?
Man, I mean, it's anytime that sort of thing happens, it's unexpected, but the bigger picture. I mentioned this on the radio Friday, was that our community did come, and that's another reason that Lindsay and I are here, and her mom, because. These people care. I receive so many text messages, and we have more food than I could probably just feed the football team with the amount of food that we have, and it just it's been overwhelming, the people that care, and that's what you want. I told the kids that. I said, look, even before the game, yes, football is big, and this is what I do for a living, and this is how I provide for my family, but ultimately we've got a lot of people that are struggling, and a lot of people that are going through things in life and, that people don't hear about, players that come in my office and we close the door and they tell me and it never leaves my office, and so many of those things are going on, but ultimately, we care about each other, and this is a really special place because of that.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids who have just lived here and grown up here, they don't realize how, it's so different from other places.
Right. Well, the fact that all of them came to the funeral, was a big deal to my family, and it's overwhelming, really, the support.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to Hayden. 58-0. And I know you didn't want it to be 58-0. We talked about that at the end of the game.
No.
But even your second string guys, your third string guys, they're still competing hard.
Yeah. Well, kind of that game was weird because it wasn't exactly like Dora. I mean, it felt a lot like it, but not exactly, because the game really was shortened at the end. And we wanted it to be that way, but I wanted more guys to play. It just so happened that our offense stayed on the field for like all 7 minutes. We expected at least one more possession of theirs. But to credit of our offense, they went out and moved the football enough to keep the ball away. We didn't intend on scoring. Again, we didn't intend on scoring 58. I really like Coach Register, and I really like the kids at Hayden. And I don't want to do that. It's not our intention to embarrass anyone.
Right.
But it's also hard to tell a third or fourth string running back not to score a touchdown.
Right.
We had to empty the benches. And we're just fortunate to have some good young players, and our JV is an indicator of that.
Yeah.
And so we offensively got, I think, like 18 snaps from our second group, but only had like 4 on defense from our second group, because when we put them all in, we were trying to rotate guys and move them through. I was able to get some kids in on special teams, which was big, and wanted more reps of that. But we're going to continue to try and develop them. But again, we don't intend for games to get like that. But as I mentioned last week, this is a new dynamic for Jasper. Being able to get, the last 3 halftime leads were 42-0, 28-0, 34-0. And so that's a different deal when you go into halftime. But what I've been pleased about is we've won the second halves of all those games. There's a tendency at times when you go into a game and you're leading like that to just sort of pull off, and not stay locked in. And our young kids have really stayed locked in, and it's going to be tremendous, the development, because if you think about the 3 JV games we've played, plus the 3 varsity games we've been able to get some reserves in, they've played a lot of football.
Right.
A guy like Spencer Rosenfeld, our quarterback, has played he's probably played 25 varsity snaps. Now, probably maybe more than like 40 varsity snaps, and then probably 100 JV snaps at least. And that's huge for his development. And there's a lot of guys like that. So I've been pleased about that. I've been pleased with the way that we've been able to take control of the games early. Start really fast, like we have in most games. Started extremely fast with Caden's touchdown Friday, but I've been really pleased with our mentality of how to finish those games as well.
All right, Coach, got to talk about the defense. 3 shutouts in a row. Have you ever been a part of something like that?
No, not at all. I mean, we over the years we've had some good defensive football teams, but to be as dominant as we have been has just been tremendous. I mean, the fact that we're not allowing anybody to get in the red zone or even almost cross the 50.
Right.
We've given up one red zone possession in the last 3 weeks and blocked a field goal on that against corner. But it's just been a dominating performance, less than 100 yards of offense each week against our starters. I mean, that's just incredible to go through that, and they're dominating right now. But again, those schools, have not been able to expose any weaknesses.
Right.
As far as like throwing the ball over our head or anything like that, or people just running by us. Kind of like Coleman did. We had the one weakness where they threw it behind us. And this week will tell a different story about that. About if you're misaligned or whatever, you're not going to make up for it just because you're more athletic than somebody. That's not happening this week.
Right.
You're going to have to be in position. You're going to do what you're supposed to do your job on every snap. And so again, I'm excited to see, not the transition, but I'm excited to see how we have grown since the Coleman game because of the level of competition now is going to go so much higher.
Well, in the last few weeks, the defense hasn't had a lot of pressure on them other than let's not let them score.
Right.
But you did block a field goal at corner. And then the second unit had a big stand against Hayden, which was good for those guys.
Well, it was, and they got the ball around the 20, close to red zone or right at it or whatever against our second group. And they made a tackle for loss, 4th and 1, got a tackle for loss. And that was really good. So a lot of kids are developing, and it's been exciting to see.
All right, how about this week, Central Clay? You talked about the athleticism steps up quite a bit. What do they bring to the table that could cause you guys some issues as far as their offense to your defense?
Well, the biggest thing is experience. I mean, they've got a quarterback who won a state championship. I mean, that same kid's taking snaps.
Yeah.
And they got a running back that won a state championship, and that same kid's there. He's a senior. He's a really good football player. He's a college player. And they've got a receiver, number 3, that played corner last year and now moves over and kind of playing safety and a receiver. He's a slot. He's caught 10 touchdowns in 4 or 5 games, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he caught 3 against Benjamin Russell. And so we're going to have to do a good job. A lot like Russellville in that they got the 3-headed monster, right? Quarterback, running back, and receiver.
Right.
And anytime you do that, you got a lot of ways to move the football. And so defensively, again, we're going to be able to tell a lot about ourselves, after that. But that's to me, the experience, the confidence that winning a state championship brings to the table, is now they don't know how to lose anymore.
Right.
And so it'll be a battle, there's no doubt.
What's your strength on defense compared to their offense?
Well, I think we've got some experience too. We've got some seniors that have played, Andre and Sheldrick and Harrison, and those guys played a lot of football.
Yeah.
And Kentavious Catlin. I mean, those guys played a lot of football, and I think they'll be okay. I think the fact that we beat them last year gives us a lot of confidence going in that game. And the fact that we only gave up 7 points in the game, has to give us a lot of confidence. And the only touchdown was on a short field. We had a bad snap on a wet surface and punted the ball straight up for like no yard, like a 0-yard punt. They got it on the plus 30 and drove it in and scored. But again, I think, being able to play them last year, and then for me, having played them the 2 years prior as well, once in Lineville, at Eufaula, gives us some confidence as well. So There's not a lot of unknowns in this game. It's interesting, because in my career coaching, this is the team that I've played the most as a head coach. And so there's, 3 straight years of film, and they haven't changed a lot, and they just kind of do what they do. So the familiarity will help us, I think, in that sense.
How about your offense to their defense?
Yeah, I think, again, these games are not won through the air. You don't win these games by throwing it 30 or 40 times. We've got 2 senior running backs that are really good players, a really good senior-laden offensive line, and it's going to be on their shoulders. I mentioned last week the development of our fullback and tight end.
Right.
Been really good. And then we've seen more guys get the football. We had like 9 guys catch passes Friday night. 4 different guys threw a pass Friday night.
Right.
So I think being able to be versatile, being able to put a lot of things on film. I think if I were the defense coordinator at Central Clay, I would be really concerned about the amount of things that you see. The fact that if we throw it or hand it to Caden, he might throw it again. You know what I mean? We have a lot of versatility. But again, with all that being said, all that window dressing, gimmicky type stuff, whatever, ultimately, we're going to have to run power.
Right.
And we're going to have to make a first down on 3rd and 2 at some point, or 4th and 1. And we're going to run behind Drake and Braxton, right? And we're going to pull Dawkins around and run that thing, or we're going to pull Drake around and run power left. We're going to do those things and have to be able to get in heavy sets, add linemen, right, and win the line of scrimmage. That's where you win football games like this.
Right. Well, and most of the time when you're winning games by the margins that you're winning, people say, oh, you don't want to show a whole lot. But you guys have showed a ton for defensive coordinators to look at.
Well, I used to be that way. I used to be real, like we'd go into a game and say, we felt good about the game. We'd be real limited. And we might run inside zone 35 times or something crazy, just running over and over. And now I feel like I want them to prepare more.
Right.
The older I've gotten, we can come up with a new thing to do. We can come up with a new double pass or a new reverse.
Right.
So I don't want to limit ourselves. Like last year, we had to go through the first 4 or 5 games. We had to go for 2. We missed an extra point or something. Had to go for 2 about 4 or 5 times. We used our 2-point plays. And I just told the guys, I said, don't worry about it. Use them. Use the 2-point. We got to have 2 points here.
Right.
Use them. We'll come up with a new 2-point play. And so we continue to be aggressive. I think that was one thing that was a limiting factor for me as a head coach, my first go-around in Eufaula, was that when we would get in these games, I would get a little bit conservative.
Right.
As far as like, let's just do what we do and be really good. But now we want to be really aggressive. You saw in the Russellville game last year, we were in a big game. Man, we aired that sucker out. We threw double pass and reverse pass, and we faked the field goal. And we faked the punt. We're going to continue to do those things because, again, I don't think you hold anything back. You just continue to go for it and be really aggressive. And what it does is, if you can be really aggressive early in the game, it spreads them out a little bit and kind of loosens the defense sometimes. And then you can kind of get back to who you are late in the game. But anyway, ultimately, offensively, we're gonna have to go for it, and we're gonna have to take some chances and take some calculated risk. But we've got a lot of different guys that can do a lot of different things with the football.
Yeah, definitely. How about last year? We talked about it was a 10-7 game.
Yep.
You had really 2 big plays. Michael Creer had a long run, and then you had that field goal to win it.
Yep.
Neither one of those guys are there though.
Yeah. Somebody new's gonna have to make a play. I mean, I mentioned this earlier. Caden was the only back in the game. He was getting healthy. He had an ankle early in the season. He was getting healthy at that time. And Cam just wasn't ready to play at that time.
Right.
But now we have 2 backs that we feel very good at, really 3 with Trayvon, that we feel really good about. We have guys like Abrion that now are playing a little Wildcat-type quarterback that can pull it and run. I mean, you saw him down the sideline Friday night, and he is lightning, and we're able to we're able to do a lot more. I think our offense is a lot more versatile, and you've seen a lot more big plays, hence why the scores have been so big.
Right.
I mean, we scored our first play of the game Friday night on a 63-yard pass, from Hayden to Denzel Chapman. And so we're going to continue to do it. You still see Spencer Rosenfeld going in and running the ball. And he's a dynamic guy and that can score from distance, and he runs well.
Right.
So we're going to continue to do those things, but again, I think ultimately we're better suited to play in this game because I feel like we have more people that are capable to play. And you got to think about too, Cole Bonner didn't play in this game last year.
Right.
And that really hurt us to the boundary because they want to man up the boundary. And we didn't feel like Anthony was ready to win last year at that time. I think he's more capable now as a year older. But they really shut down one side of the field, made us one-dimensional, made us run Caden or Mike. And then ultimately, again, we had a hard time scoring, but we did make the plays when we needed to.
Right. Well, and then this year you have a new kicker.
Yeah.
He missed his first extra point of the season last week, but then hit a 39-yard field goal. So you got to feel pretty confident with what he's doing too.
Yeah, he's like, 20 of 21 or something on the year. He's been really good. And but the field goal was a late deal. Taylor Mosley coaches our kickers, and who better to do that than him? And so he was standing on the sideline, and I was trying to find him because he's not on a headset.
Right.
And I know about Preston's range, but we always look at that pregame too.
Yeah.
How's he kicking it? And it was about 18 seconds left on the play clock, and I said, can he make it from here? It's 39. And he said, I think he's fine. And we ran him out there and basically had the red field goal, which means that we run out there, sit the block, kick the ball. Like there's no downtime.
Yeah, because they snapped it with 2 seconds.
Yeah, and Harrison did a good job. I said, Harrison, did you know how much time was on the play clock? He said, I knew how much, because our snapper decides when he wants to snap it.
Right.
Because we try and delay that and that sort of thing. But anyway, Preston nailed it. That was a big deal. It was a big kick, big confidence booster for him.
Now, this is you've only been on the road once this year, and that was a really short trip to Corner. This is a couple-hour trip.
Yep.
Does that throw any kinks into it? And how much do you need fans to travel?
Man, I mean, the logistics behind it are a nightmare. I mean, we're done. I mean, the plan is made. I've met with administrators already today. The buses, we're going to charter buses over there. I felt like that was the smartest thing to do rather than ride the school bus 2.5 hours and be cramped on that and be hot. And so we'll charter the buses. We'll leave around lunch. We'll eat lunch and then get on the road. We'll eat in Lineville at 3 o'clock. There's a little restaurant in Lineville that we will completely pack out when 100 of us are eating there. And then we'll go over and get started with pregame at 4. But you know what? I think the hospitality there at Central Clay, the venue is so nice. It's a brand new school, a lot like ours. It looks very similar to our school. They put us in an auxiliary gym that has a rubber floor. It's air conditioned. We'll do partner stretch and all that stuff inside. And they are, I'm talking about unbelievable people in Lineville, Alabama. And
right.
They'll take care of us and they'll feed us after the game and all kinds of stuff. But they are just second to none as far as that's concerned. But what's interesting is the trip from Eufaula to Lineville is about the same as Jasper to Lineville. And so the logistics, I look back at my 2017 or 16 itinerary. How did we do it? And because we went and won the game over there.
Yeah.
Beat them 14-10. It was a battle, just like this one will be. But, I looked at that. And so, how do we move all that? Obviously, the fans, we have we're going to do two things. We're going to take a support staff bus that's leaving at 2:30 that'll have our filmers, some of the coaches' wives, cheerleaders. We did that from football to them as a thank you
right.
to all that our cheerleaders do. So they'll travel up at 2:30. We didn't think they wanted to get there as early as us. And then finally, we'll have a fan bus as well. So we'll have a spirit bus, as we're calling it, that students can pay for and get on. Not much, just to help cover a little bit of cost, but so maybe kids that couldn't drive, or I know as a parent that's a tough one, 2.5 hours to
right.
let them drive if they're going by themselves, and maybe they can jump on that bus, and we'll charter those 2 buses. Will leave at 2:30. So we've made plans, and the big thing is going on a long road trip and having the mentality to push the distractions out is big. But I think this was a game that I wanted because I want to make sure that we can do that. So in November, if we're having to travel a long way in the playoffs, we've already done this.
Right.
This isn't the first time we've gotten on a charter bus. It isn't the first time we've gone 2+ hours. This is a good experience for our players.
Right. Well, and I know you're not going to promote this as 1 versus 2 and game of the century and all that kind of stuff. But I hope you forgive us for promoting it that way.
I think you have to.
Yeah.
It's a big game. I mean, not necessarily because of the rankings, but because of their ability. I mean, they are going to show us all of our weaknesses. They're going to show us if we don't play hard, that they'll get after us, and they're going to be physical. And if we don't take care of the football, they'll knock it off of us. They run and tackle the football in Lineville, Alabama. There's a bunch of tradition in Clay County and Lineville High School
right.
that made Central of Clay County, and those kids have won a bunch of state championships with a Hall of Fame football coach, and the guy that's won 6 or 7 state championships in 300+ games. It's just incredible what this game will bring as far as, again, a measuring stick for our program.
Right. Well, I think one way or the other, I'm hoping it's a victory, but I think next week we'll have a lot to talk about from this game for sure.
No doubt. Well, again, it'll go a long way in figuring out kind of the North and the makeup. I mean, there's a lot of football left, but as far as how we match up, this team beat Benjamin Russell. This team beat Viger less than a year ago. I mean, this is a good football team.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Well, good luck Friday night. Coach them up this week and have them ready to play.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week for the next edition of the Coach Moore Show.